Okay, we are gathered here in his name. No, I'm kidding. Okay. We're gathered here for the dedication of Doug's historical marker, which from here on out we are going to name the hysterical marker because that's what he would call it. So, anyway, I just wanted to welcome all of you here. I want to welcome family. My family is here from Denton. Doug's family is here. His sister and his nephew are here from Georgia. And I want to welcome all of a lot of really dear customers of ours that have since become close friends because that's just what happened with what we did. And I also wanted to welcome my Edom family, which is my core of people that have kept me going for the past few years. This was supposed to happen about 1.5 years ago. Our dear friends Jay and Ruth Ann Askew sponsored this marker. They were very close to Doug and myself. They used to live here in Edom and they now live in Austin. And they were unable to make it here this weekend, so we're going to hold them very close to our hearts. And we're taking a video today so that they can see and hear everything that was said and be a part of us here. And also, I want to thank P.A. Getty, who was instrumental in making that happen for them, for that dream to come true. And and also thank a lot of people on the Van Zandt Historical Commission, a lot of who are here today. And we have a few people, we have one person anyway that wants to say a few words. This is Sherry Archer, and she is with the Van Zandt Historical Commission, and she will say a couple of words.
Because we just want to congratulate you on this historical marker, and we appreciate all of the people of Edom and everything that you have done throughout the years and welcoming new business, and this is a great historical marker. And P.A. Getty did all the research and wrote the narrative for it, so we were really grateful to her, and it was a long process getting this marker through. So congratulations on the marker.
And here we go. Woo! So our mayor, Barbara Crow. Barbara, are you here? She wasn't sure if she was going to be here or not. She had another meeting. But she said in case she didn't get here, she wanted me to read this. Thank you, Doug. I came to Edom at about the same time. While I came to become a part of my husband's East Texas family, Doug came to throw around some mud and get things fired up. I first noticed his work when I would drive by and wonder what those giant saucers were, all arranged under his shed. I came to find out that they were beginnings of his beautiful pottery studio. So that is from Mayor Barbara Crow. I also would like this opportunity to introduce the new owners of Potters Brown, which is now called the Potters Brown Collective. And Sarah and Lisa, where are you? Sarah Briscoe and Lisa Rush. Have been brave enough to tackle this building and carry forth this legacy, which means absolutely everything to me because we're all getting old around here, and now we have a new generation to take this forward, and hopefully continue the legacy that Doug started. So thank you so much to you guys. I love you very much. I just wanted to say a few words about Doug, and I'll try to get through this. So he was born in Arcata, California, which is extreme northern California, almost to the Oregon border, and it's in the Redwoods. And Doug's backyard was the Redwoods, and he grew up in the Redwoods. That's where he would play, and I think his soul was there a little bit because he always had a connection to trees and to the life of trees. Trees would literally speak to him. Okay, it's a little woo-woo, but, trees would speak to him. He would speak to trees. I think he had such a great connection to them. And there's something that really weird happened to me last night. I was laying in bed and I was trying to go to sleep. And I often listen to these sleep stories, and I thought, okay, I'll listen to one on the Muir Woods tonight because he loved that place. And the narrator started talking about redwoods and what makes redwoods so special and how they live so long, and other than of course the resins and everything that keep them immune to fire and disease. But one of the most extraordinary things about them is that they form a root system, and their root system is only about 12 inches deep. That's it. But they spread out for over 80 feet, and they connect with all of the other redwood trees that are around them. And they not only touch their roots, but they intertwine their roots. They intertwine them and twist them as though, you're forming this very strong bond, and that's what keeps them going. That's what keeps them erect. That's what keeps them in this tremendous bond where they survive for so long. And I thought that it was just such a metaphor for Doug and his life and community. They create a community around them. And that's really what he tried to do here in this town by creating a community. After he left Arcata, he went to Humboldt State University. He had his first studio in Trinidad, California, which was just about 10 miles north of Arcata. Is Sharon here? Sharon and Jim here? They're not here. Sharon, Doug's first wife, Sharon, was from Texas, and she was a jeweler, and they decided to come back to Texas. He was ready to leave and maybe get some sunshine because he didn't get much of that where he lived. So they settled in a little dude ranch down the road here about 10 minutes, and Sharon was the craft director and Doug was the horse wrangler. And they were very young, and one day Doug was out on his motorcycle riding around looking at all the neighborhood towns, and he rode up to this stop sign here, and he looked across the street here, and he said, this is it. This is where I'm going to build my pottery, and this is where I'm going to build my dream. And that's what happened. He bought the first two buildings that are here. He was originally in the Birdhouse building, and then he sort of outgrew that, and he was able to buy this building a few years later and establish his studio over here. But it was literally like build a dream and the rest will follow, because it did follow. Doug was a very humble person. He wasn't a super dynamic leader. That wasn't his jam. That wasn't the way that he was. He was a very gentle spirit, and he always felt like this is a place not only for me, but for other like souls to come and find their dream. And we can all do it together, like the Redwoods, as a community, forming a bond and working at this completely together. And and that's how he established himself. And he was all about sharing. He wanted to share it with others. He was the most generous person I've ever known in my life. And he just set this intention. He set an intention for this dream, and he trusted in that with everything. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to trust in what you do and have it all happen after that. He was incredibly thirsty for knowledge. He loved learning about things. He was like a sponge. He was an accomplished photographer. He was an accomplished woodworker. He loved golf. He studied golf. My God, we had a whole library of golf books. You know, we did it together. It was something we enjoyed together. And then, of course, the glazes. Oh my God, he dedicated his entire life to glazes. I mean, he got so obsessed with learning about things that once he went to TJC and he took a course in air conditioning and refrigeration just because he wanted to know how it worked, you know. And I was like, oh, well, you know, we are two different people, clearly. He also loved to teach, but he didn't teach from like, my ego needs this. You know, I have so much to show people, I have to teach. He was the most selfless person I have ever known. He taught from a place of wanting to share. What he wanted to learn, he wanted to pass on to others, and that was really what his whole life was about. His knowledge and teaching led to the passion of glazes. I think that those of you who are potters here and maybe have taken some pottery, know anything about glazes, know that there's something that you can never perfect. You know, you might think you get it to where you want it, and then they turn on you, and you have to sort of start all over again. But even when he got a glaze that was perfect, that was just the way he wanted it, he had to pick at it, and he had to play with it, and he had to test it and test it and test it. You know, we have a whole driveway full of glaze tests. You know, a whole alleyway full of glaze tests where he did that. We made a great team. He was obsessed with the glazes, and later on in his life, making pots was just merely a canvas for his glazes. And I was really interested in form and function, and loved to make pots, and I also loved to apply glazes. So we really made a wonderful collaborative team for 30 years. Okay, I have to tell this really funny other story. Doug was at the time, you know, we didn't know that this was what you call it, on the spectrum. But Doug was a little bit on the spectrum, and he didn't always have the most polished social skills. Like, but I mean, he wasn't mean. It wasn't mean. It was just like his brain would work so fast that he would kind of feel like, well, I've got some other things to do, you know, instead of standing here talking to you. I've got, you know, I got shit to do, you know. So sometimes we just be standing there talking to people, and maybe people that would come in from out of town, and they'd be in the shop, and we'd be conversing with them, and Doug would just go, okay, I got to go load a kiln. Middle of conversation, got to go load a kiln. And he'd just be out of there. And I'd just be standing there going, okay. But he would do that all the time. And now it's really a funny thing for all of us, because whenever we feel like we want to leave or something, we always go, got to go load a kiln. he lived life on his own terms, and what a great thing. I mean, don't we all wish that everyone could say that at our life celebration, where we live life on our own terms? And he gave everyone else the space to do that as well. I think that was the primary thing that was so special about him, was that he did give everybody the space that they needed. That was why the community worked. That was why the artists all worked here together, giving each other the space that they needed, not only a physical space, but a space mentally and emotionally to create what you need to create to be great. And I think that's one reason why this community has held on for so long. Yeah, we ebb and flow, we're cyclical, things are great, buildings are full for a while, and then they're not, and then they are, and then they're not. But we've had this community for so long. We've had this art festival for so long, y'all. We're in the 52nd year of our art festival. And Doug started that festival in 1971 simply because, again, of sharing. He wanted to have a space for artists, friends, to come and share and be able to sell their work, to be able to make a living. And that's how the art festival got started. And for the first year, he got 3,000 people for the art festival. That's just uncanny. Now we've certainly taken it up a notch, and with the help of tons of volunteers and all of my local people in the community here helping me to make it happen, and Zeke, of course, and it's still going on. So I'm just kind of wrapping up here. 2020, we lost a lot of people that we love here in town. And it's been tough to get over, but we're making it through, and we're making it happen. And, okay, just, like in the spirit of sharing, I'm going to beg here for a minute. Down there where the photographs are, there's a jar that has the Doug Brown Scholarship Fund on it. And we are trying to, we have a scholarship fund for young people in our community who are interested in pursuing a career in the arts. We used to have this scholarship fund. It wasn't called the Doug Brown, that we gave to any high school they had to apply, high school senior, for whatever career they wanted to pursue. But we've decided it's gone back to the Edom Craft Community. The Edom Craft Community is still existing. It's a nonprofit. It's been existing since the 70s. The Edom Craft Community runs the art festival now. And we also take sponsorships for anyone who is interested in being a sponsor. They can donate on the website, which is edomarts.com. And there's a place for you to have different levels of scholarship or donate whatever you want to. Those not only go to the art festival, but they also go to promoting different art events that take place here in town, and future events that we would like to see happen. So I think I'm about done. Check out all the shops while you're in town. We have some new galleries. We have the O Collective across the street, which is a great little gallery and gift shop. We have the Edom Art House, which is next door to my house. And incidentally, I live here. Excuse me, it's a place that Doug and I did ourselves. And there's a great porch on the back, so if any of you get chilly, there's some blankets up there. You can go up there and sit and wrap up in a blanket if you want to. We have wonderful snacks over here that are made by my wonderful tribe of women that surround me here in town, and they're all quite delicious. We have wine and beer and non-alcoholic beverages as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to James Wilhite, who was a dear friend of both Doug and myself. And I'd also like to open it up to anybody else who would like to say a few words or have a funny story, or after James is finished, and whoever wants to talk or not. Um, my dear friend Sharon Blue Walker is going to be entertaining us with her music, her original music. And so feel free to mingle, have something to drink, have some snacks, tell stories. We're all here because we love Doug, and he was such a goofball. I know we have tons of really funny stories to tell about him, and let's share those and share our love for him, and and just share our love. So with that, I'll turn it over to James.
Thanks. It's great to see everybody out here. I've got notes. Doug Walter Brown. And the first time I heard that was from Zeke. Walter? He's not a Walter. How about that? Is that better? First time I heard that Doug Walter Brown, I thought he is not a Walter. Zeke called him Walter, and I think he's one of the very few people I ever heard him refer to as Walter. But Doug Walter Brown, very special man. As a member of the Historical Society and the museum across the street, I thought I would like to share just a little bit with you about Doug, because honestly, this probably wouldn't exist, certainly not the way it does today, without Doug Brown stopping here and deciding this was going to be the space. There's a quote that I read today from our friend Carol, and it said, "We cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow men." And then Beth starts talking about the redwoods. I thought, that was definitely Douglas. Definitely Douglas. My wife and I moved here in 1981, dropped in the middle of Tyler when William Wayne Justice was getting crucified for doing what was fair and just. And my first thought was, what hellhole have I found? We were fresh out of college, Mary out of UT, me out of Stephen F. Austin and UT, and all of a sudden I'm in Tyler, Texas, one of the most cliquish places I had ever been, among a lot of people that I didn't agree with, and I just knew I was never going to get along. And then we happened to come out here, kind of like Douglas, just out for a day's stroll, and we stumbled across Doug and Zeke and Marty, and we were welcomed in. It was magic. We found our tribe. And had it not been for those people, we never would have stayed in this part of East Texas. We laughingly refer to it as being behind the pine curtain. And, you know, there's so much truth to that. There's so much truth to that if you don't find your tribe, and we did find it here, that's for sure. I like to say that we are Doug Brown transplant hippies. We are hippies to the core. I'm one of those that if there's a 12-step program, I'll be the first to stand up and say, yes, I'm a hippie. And if it wasn't for Doug Brown, I see some other hands going up back there. The 12-step program may start tonight. He was a very unique man. For those of you not from around here, we refer to that as the East Texas mating call of the 16-year-old boy. Doug Brown was a very unique man, very, very special, and I loved him dearly. One of the things I loved most about him was the fact that he would ask you a question, something that maybe just happened to pass, and he would simply ask you a question, well, what do you think about that, Chris? And then he would listen. He didn't interrupt you. He would listen and focus on what you said and interact with you about what you said. He was genuinely curious. about what you had to say on some subject. He was patient and an excellent teacher. Beth was playing golf with him and wanted to get better. She's as bad as him about golf. And there was a comment about, he's such a great golfer. Is he going to teach her? And his comment was, not on your life. No smart man would ever teach his wife how to play golf. So he went out and found her the best teacher in the area so that she could get better. She's an excellent golfer.
He still taught me.
He just did it in a...
Follow his own advice.
That's true. He often didn't follow his own advice. He kept his world simple and without complications, yet he was very analytical, and he was excellent at most everything he did. I came up one day, and this was late 80s. We just had established careers, and I had my favorite coffee cup that I drank out every morning, and the handle broke off. And I came back up to Doug and handed him the handle and the cup and said, Douglas, can you mend it? Well, he looked at it, and it was quite simple. Yes, he said, sure, I can do that. And he walked to the side door right over there and threw it on the ground, and it broke into pieces. Douglas, that wasn't really what I had in mind. And he said, go get yourself another one off the shelf. I said, well, I kind of like that one. He said, this next mug will become your new favorite. It was just that simple to him. We used to gather every Sunday across the street at the bakery and have dinner with great friends and just spend the evening drinking wine, having dinner. And for some reason, one evening, my wife and I parked on this side of the road. We were coming back across the road behind Douglas and Beth. Doug with a bottle of wine in one hand and something else in the other, leftovers maybe the other bottle of wine. And if you didn't know Douglas well, he really didn't have a butt. He wore overalls for a reason. They would stay up. About halfway across the street, just right there behind you guys, about yellow line, his pants dropped to his knees. Douglas did not like to wear underwear. And in true Douglas form, both hands up, not down, but up, he begins to holler, Beth, Beth. He didn't stop for her to assist him. He just kept walking across the street saying, Beth. And she scurries behind him trying to help. It was typical Douglas. He was generous to a fault. Anybody that knows him knows he was generous to a fault, and he did have a vision, and that vision came true. I'm only involved in this area today because we were lucky enough to find he and Zeke and Marty in the early 80s, 81, 82, and find the tribe that was our tribe, that invited us in and welcomed us with open hearts. And Douglas taught me that you always give back to your community. You always are generous with your time. It's going to pay off in whatever way it does. Don't look for the payoff. It just will happen if it's going to happen. And that's why I'm involved in Edom today, is because of Doug Brown. One last thing. That man gave excellent hugs. Raise your hand if you know he gave an excellent hug. He really did. He was famous for his hugs. He is missed.
So I'm Doug's sister. I'm 7 years younger, and the goofiness must have started very young, because I remember Mom telling me that when he was quite young, he came home and said, I can't go to school. I said, why? Well, the sunshine's too bright. So the next day he said, I can't go to school. And I said, why? He said, there's dog poop on the street. It turned out that he'd gotten in trouble at school, and that's why he wouldn't go to school. But other than that, you know, Doug helped foster my love of cats, and he was a great babysitter in the afternoon sometimes when Mom and Dad were at work, and he was a great uncle and a great brother, and I appreciate all of you for honoring him. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Whitney, and I am Beth's youngest niece, and her sister Susie is my mom. And I wanted to talk about Beth and Doug's pottery for a minute. When my spouse Sarah and I decided to get married, one of the things I was most excited about was to be able to come to Potter's Brown and make our own design and pick out our own pottery that people generously bought for us for our wedding. And one of my favorite things when we bought our new house was to open the cabinets of our kitchen and see all of their pottery in our cabinets. And our whole family now has their pottery. My sister Francie and her family, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, they have all of it as well at all of our family gatherings, at Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays. We now have this wonderful pottery that just fills our home and makes it so special every time we get it out. And I guess this was sometime last fall, I think. Our Facebook group of our neighborhood, a woman posted that she was selling some pottery that she had bought from someone one time. And I just looked, and it was Potter's Brown pottery. And this was after Doug had passed, and after they had sold the pottery business, and I knew I was never going to be able to get new pottery again. So I was like, I have to have this pottery. And luckily I got it, and I won't tell you how much she sold it to me for. But I'm so happy to be able to have that again. We have a whole new set of plates, a whole new set of small plates as well. And I know, like many of you here, you probably have this gorgeous art that fills your homes and is at the times of your life that you find yourself most happy with your family. And I just find that really special. And I just, I know that we hold that also close to our hearts. And so not only, you know, was Doug a generous man, but he left us with something that we can all hold close to us. And I just know when Beth moved out here and came to Edom, she built such a wonderful life that we were able to be a part of as well. And that's part of something that our family holds really close. And I'm just so thankful for that. And to see you all here just shows what a man he was. And so thank you guys for letting me say something today.
Thank you. Most of you guys don't know me. My name is Zeke. I was very, very fortunate that Marty and I were invited to move here in the early 70s. Douglas gave us a chance to have our life, our dream, buy some land, build a house, make a living being an artist, and it's been a great life. It's been feast and famine, as with everybody's life, and it's just wonderful. Marty's been gone the same length of time as Doug has, and it was a hard year. Douglas always told a story of his uncle that said, if you could drink the water and pee off the back porch, it's a good place to live. And that's how it's been. It's getting a little harder to pee off the back porch because there's so many people here, but the water is still good. And so my new love, Reese, and I have purchased enough, well, we purchased these buildings across the street to rehab into artist spaces.
More artists.
And Douglas always wanted, when we went someplace to eat, a shot of the house tequila. So We've been pouring shots of tequila around here, and we have commemorative shot glasses. So if everybody will get a shot and get a glass, you get to keep the glass, and then let's have a toast to Doug. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, dear.
You may have coffee with us every morning. You may have your toast on one of our plates. You may have a fancy dinner party one night and have us all out. You may have your Thanksgiving dinner with us or your Christmas dinner. And that's our connection with you. And we will never lose that with you. And this is the first time I've seen some of you, and I've missed you terribly. I've missed seeing you coming into the shop, and I always want to have that connection with all of you. So thank you from absolutely the bottom of my heart for being in our lives, for believing in us, for buying our work, for keeping us in business, and for letting us do what it is that we love to do. This is Daphne Hatcher. She's one of our fellow Potter friends and wants to say a few words.
My husband and I, and he's here too, Gary. Gary was a student at Commerce A&M, which was East Texas State University in the early 70s, and that's when he first met Douglas. Gary was taking a pottery class from Jim Wattrell, and this other guy came in and was quizzing Wattrell very deeply and seriously about how to fire the kiln, that he was having trouble with his kiln, and he just probed and probed and probed, and Wattrell answered and answered and answered, but Gary listened to him, and they sat and visited. But Gary first met Douglas in 1973, and that was 50 years ago. And Gary then transferred to North Texas, where we met and married, and we went away to England for a while and came back, but we set up a pottery studio north of Tyler. And one day Gary said, "There's a guy that's got a pottery around here. I really would like for you to meet him. He's just a really interesting guy." And so we had about a 18-month-old baby in a stroller, and we were in our 20s, and we rolled up in our old Volkswagen and came in and visited with Douglas, and he just was so generous and kind, and we visited, and it was just as James Wilhite said, we had landed in East Texas too, and we finally met somebody that was on our wavelength. And we just, it was the start of a wonderful relationship over many, many decades with Douglas. And we also had making pottery in common and a passion. And my passion was also glazes. And, you know, you could call Douglas up any time and ask him a question, and he loved answering your questions. He loved sharing. I learned so much about glazes from Doug Brown. He's been my teacher and my mentor in that for all of these years. If I was firing the kiln and Gary was away and suddenly the kiln was doing something weird, Douglas was who I would call. And Douglas would stop what he was doing. He even came, you know, we're an hour away. He even drove over to the studio one day. You know, that's how much he cared. You know, he would stop what he was doing, and as everyone said, he was very passionate about what he was doing, and he didn't have time for it. But if you needed something, he was really there. And Douglas was one of the most present people of anyone I have ever met. He was right here, right now, in the conversation. He wasn't thinking about something else. He wasn't, you know, somewhere else in his mind. He was right there with you, and he was a listener. He just listened. He was just he was a unique human being. You're not going to meet another person like Douglas Brown in your lifetime. And I just wanted to say how much Gary and I appreciated our friendship with Douglas all these years. He and Gary were very, very close. My husband's here. He has Parkinson's disease, so I'm speaking for him too. but he and Douglas were close. He could call Douglas up anytime, and they were just good friends. When Douglas passed, it was just a real heartbreak for everybody, but Gary lost a really, really good friend, and so did I. But anyway, we're glad that y'all are here. And I also want to say, we knew Douglas through several wives.
I was number 5.
And I guess he felt we were kindred spirits too, but when he was going through a breakup, he would often spend a lot of time with us, and we would commiserate with him. And when he met Beth, she probably has an awareness that I was a little wary. Who was this person? And it didn't take me very long to figure out that Beth was Doug's equal, and that Beth was somebody, finally Doug had a woman, a partner, a friend in his life that he really could count on, and that he could be a partner with in this life that he created here for himself. And y'all have created a beautiful life together.
We did.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Love you.
So let's have a toast.